Lovely. And Sony is going to take a little bit again. Start accelerating a little bit because this does actually cut down into our little time, doesn't it?
Don't worry, they will adjust.
Better planning.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. That looks awesome. So I think something happened here. Ooh. And there we go. Lovely. Now that we have these two things defined, we can work together to create a secure channel between people, not requiring a centralized entity to, well, know the information in the middle. If you could move to the next slide. Thank you. Oh, we're on a PDF. This looks complicated at first, but it's dead simple. You and I, or Alice and Bob, generate an asymmetric key pair. So we both have a public and a private key. I now share my public key, or Alice shares her, I gotta get these metaphors straight. Alice shares her public key with Bob. Bob shares his public key with Alice. Now, Alice generates a symmetric key, a box that they can both open, but right now only Alice has it. And Alice encrypts the symmetric key using Bob's public key. Now, Alice sends it to Bob, who can now, step 5, decrypt the public key, the symmetric key using his private key. Now, the reason why, what's so amazing about this is, and you can see this on the diagram, is that the server does not have the ability to find the symmetric key, right? Does not have access to the symmetric key. Only knows the public key of the two. Now, we can use this to communicate. And we'll use this a little bit further later on to build something even cooler. Would you? Next, as we need to learn really one more important concept, which is blockchain here. Now, for blockchain, the most important thing is to understand hashing. Hashing allows you to take a large file of text or any information and compress it down into a short string. Now, that short string will change fundamentally even if you flip just one bit of the large piece of information. So, the critical part is that small changes drastically affect the output. And that based on the hash, you do not know what the input is because there's a compression going on, right? Like there's a loss of information along the journey. Now, this is used for blockchain. The way that it is basically used is you have block number 1 and a hash is generated of all of the transactions there. So let's say Cindy sends $100 to Bob. Now, a hash is created of that, which directly indicates all of the content that previously used to be there. It's like a signature. Now, for block number 2, let's say Tim wants to send something to Samantha. This hash is placed into the block itself. And this is again hashed. Now, the reason why this is extremely powerful is because if I change block 1 now, let's say Cindy actually decides she wants to hack the system and gain $50,000 in block 1, then this hash will change, which means that it no longer works out that this hash becomes true. So what you can, and we're back. And the further this chain grows, changing anything in the past will result in there needing to be a propagative change throughout the entire chain, which is not possible if you're constantly generating new blocks and that you agree on with everyone, this is the block that we're at. All right, I see some lost faces in the crowd. Fair enough. The critical part here is that you can store information for the long term on the blockchain. And that allows you to, for instance, if you go to the next slide, to set up a decentralized storage system where no individual outside of Alice and Bob have access to the information. And this is, again, this is super simple. And we're going to abstract away a lot of the complexities of blockchain for now. So imagine that a secure channel exists between Alice and Bob. And they have already agreed upon some IP, right? They built a business together, let's say. This data is encrypted with a symmetric key that they both share, and then is placed onto the blockchain. This is validated and stored, and now Bob can retrieve it, can decrypt it, and there was no centralized part. Yeah. What you can also do is when you have consensus between multiple people, when you have agreement, and you write that to the blockchain, and you say, let's say, this house belongs to the person who holds this NFT, and you place that onto the blockchain, and you go, this person owns this NFT. It allows for a tokenization of physical assets. Now, for instance, here, there was an NFT created for a house in Florida, and then that house was sold for 653,000 USD. And that's a very useful property. Now, we move on to our last component that we can use to solve these challenges. And fundamentally, it's about digital platforms. Now, I saw a decent amount of hands go up for master students, considerably less for researchers. And that is really interesting because and we'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit, India has a rather low rate of researchers per capita. And this fundamentally comes down to supply and demand. And you need to be able to collaborate somewhere for this supply and demand to flourish. You need the demand from industry in terms of commercialization, in terms of interest, in terms of being able to show the path forward, as well as global interest. I believe there was, at yesterday's introductory meeting, there was a communication around heavy water. There is global interest in heavy water, deuterium and tritium, I think, that is used for fusion reactions and a variety of other things. So who is interested globally in this IP? The other question is, for digital platforms, is how much supply do you have? You're currently attending a conference well, maybe 2. And this allows you to get into touch with researchers and allows researchers to get in touch with researchers. And this grows ideas. This grows the supply of total IP. Also the quality, which is lovely. Then to get increased supply, collaborating with industry is exceptionally important. And lastly, the most, and we'll go into this a little bit further, the most direct control of the supply of fantastic IP is coming from researchers teaching students, building the next generation of researchers. Lovely. Now, so we identified some challenges up top. And what I'm communicating to you is that these are very much within reach. How do you show ownership of a piece of IP is via the blockchain. Who has access to the information you can regulate via entities. In a secure manner, how do you collaborate with others is fundamentally about having platforms that allow for effective collaboration. Now, and as we showed in the slightly more complex slide, it is how do you store data in a secure way that it is very unlikely you will be removed from. Whoops. Yeah. That you will always have access from. And this is a combination of end-to-end encryption plus blockchain. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Now, I believe that you have been in seminars for the last 3 hours, is that correct? It went from 9 a.m. to 12? Oh, okay. Now I can hear the deep excitement in your voices, and I really appreciate that passion. So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to recenter ourselves. We're going to come back a little bit to it. We're going to do a 5-minute meditation. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to place your feet squarely onto the ground, connecting with the floor. Adjust so you're in a comfortable position. And now, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and let that breath out. For the next few minutes, simply focus on your breath. Notice the natural rhythm of your breathing. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. Now expand your awareness to hear all of the little sounds come in and fade into your consciousness. When you are ready, feel free to open your eyes. Thank you very much for joining me on that. Fantastic. You ready?
I am going to talk from here.
Okay.
All right. How is that for everyone? Is this on?
I think it's...
Not sure if this is on.
So it
Hello?
seems on.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay. That's great. How was the meditation for everyone? Awesome. Meditation is such an important thing in this era for all of us because we are dealing with crazy amount of complexities. Things that for my generation, I didn't even have to think and worry about, but your generation has a lot of complexity. So meditation is something I would highly recommend everyone does on a regular basis. So thank you, Anton, about, Can you
Is
hear me?
Kalindi audible
Can you hear me at the back?
in the back?
Okay.
Okay, all
Okay.
right.
Great. So, thank you, Anton, for teaching us about decentralized IP. I think that was great learning. Hopefully, all of you would go back and do some research online and try to learn more about the blockchain and decentralization. This is going to be part and parcel of your life. I am going to talk about innovation and Innovation 2.0. I have been introduced very graciously and kindly, so I'm not going to focus on who I am and what I'm passionate about. One thing that I will mention is I am extremely passionate about reimagining creative and economic freedom for all. So let's talk about challenges, insanely great challenges that your generation is facing. What do you see on the slide? Is it chaos, disruption, a world in flux? But here's the thing. Every single one of these challenges is an invitation to innovate, to create, to change the world. We are not just facing a new normal. We are facing an era where normal is outdated as a flip phone. Right? There is no such thing as normal anymore. It's never normal. That's the new normal. This is our chance, your chance, to build something. Yeah. So this is our chance, your chance to build something insanely great that doesn't adapt to this crazy new world, but actually shapes it. So this is from a book that I read recently, Fast Future Blur. I would highly encourage every one of you to read this book because it is going to talk about the future world of work and what are the big changes that are going to come along. And one of the things that that I really loved is them talking about innovation moving from extractive to regenerative. So what does that mean, extractive to regenerating? We are not just changing the game, we are rewriting the rules of innovation. This isn't about incremental steps, going from your conventional to your sustainable. It's about making quantum leaps to regenerative. Imagine creating products that don't just not harm the planet, but actually make it thrive. That's not just thinking different, it's thinking revolutionary. That is what your generation needs to be doing. We have the power to transform from value extractors, like all your big techs, for example, to value creators, from GDP obsessives to ecosystem restorers. This isn't just the next big thing, it's the only thing that truly matters for our future. Are you ready to make a dent in the universe? Are you ready to make a dent in the universe? Can I? Fantastic. So, for Innovation 2.0, what is it that is going to matter? We need Innovators 2.0. What are the traits of these innovators? The next generation of innovators, they're not just thinking different, they're thinking holistic, a very big difference. They aren't your average tech geeks. They are system maestros, sustainability wizards, and cultural bridge builders all rolled into one. They don't cross disciplines, they obliterate the boundaries between them. So, what is very important is interdisciplinary innovators. You all will have to be that. Just being an expert in one field is not going to be enough. Collaborative networkers, you have to have the capacity to work across disciplines, across cultures, and tackling complex global issues. And get this, they bake ethics right into the circuitry. Ethical tech leaders are going to become extremely important because we are dealing with technologies like AI, which can be misused very easily. So you have to have that ethical technical leadership. That's very, very important. We are changing the world one insanely great planet-saving innovation at a time. That's what an Innovator 2.0 looks like. So Anton mentioned during his talk that the number of researchers in India. We can see that over here as compared to some of the other countries, South Korea, Sweden, Japan. We have a really low number of researchers in India at this point, 260 per million. That's a very, very low number. Research is extremely important. Research is what leads to economic development of a country. So talking about unleashing the global research revolution, and even in the more developed, in the wealthier nations, just 6,000 researchers per million, that is still very low, very low. Given the kind of complex problems that your generation has to deal with, the number of researchers just needs to go up exponentially at this point. So when you look at this map, it's not just data. It's untapped genius waiting to be unleashed. We are sitting on gold mine of human potential, especially in places like India. Imagine if we could flip the script, turning those light patches into hotspots of innovation. We're just not talking about incremental change here. We are talking about igniting a research revolution that could solve the world's biggest problems. And we have that capacity right here in this room. It's time to think about how we nurture talent. Every mind is a universe of possibilities. Each and every one of you is a universe of possibilities. Are we brave enough to light the fuse on this intellectual powder keg? Because when we do, we don't just change the map, we will change the world. So, what will it take? Here is a thought that I would like to leave all of you with. What will it take to give every Curie and Einstein a chance to innovate? We at Dow Street are committed to making this innovation accessible for all. And thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for listening to us. Happy to take questions.
Ma'am,
Yes.
as you have mentioned that you are committed to making innovation accessible to all. So what kind of measures or what kind of initiatives are you taking?
Fantastic. What a great question. Would you like to?
It's a live demo.
Okay.
It's a live demo
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, sure, sure. We're not connected. Well, you
So
could
that's
join my,
that's a
you could
critical
join
problem.
my, yeah,
So we're both co-founders at Dow Street. What Dow Street does is it provides a marketplace of opportunity. We are currently working with PCET to onboard students, to enable them to collaborate with one another. We enable this through integration with industry by allowing them to create processes on the platform that will enable transformational improvements. So whether that is getting to know yourself, building a digital product, following a research interest, building a business. And through this marketplace, you can identify other people that are on the journey with you. And right now, we are particularly interested in students and getting those students to collaborate with others globally. It's not. I do, but is there an Ethernet port in here? There is not. All right. Does that answer your question? Happy to give it a live demo, or if you're interested, the website's on here, and you can. So we are building a collaborative platform that will allow students to connect and gain opportunities. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would just like to add a little bit to what Anton just described. Is we are also creating missions. Missions are life-transforming projects that will actually, we are going to be creating a very specific mission about research so that everyone learns how to do research from the very first year. You don't have to wait to learn how to do research till you get to a PhD program. We want research to become a part of your DNA, so we are actually creating this very special project where you will learn what it takes to do research. You will actually do research on a few subjects, topics, etc. And you have amazing professors who will be able to guide you through that. And you will be able to execute those missions, and they will be visible on Dow Street. And so you can then show off to the world. You can show the kind of research that you have done. And that is just going to be, a life changer for you. For me, when I was doing my engineering, had heard about research, but didn't know much about research or what to do about it. So that was, it was very sad that that wasn't part of, my academic life. And we are definitely committed to changing that for each one of you. We are also making it possible for you all to create your own IP and own it on Dow Street. That is very, very, very important. We were just talking with Dr. Prasad about this earlier. And he was describing research that he has done earlier, and we were talking about IP ownership. So that becomes extremely important in the AI era, because creativity is going to matter, and because AI is going to do all the productivity, right? In the past, the value of humans was productivity. Now the value of humans is going to be creativity. So owning IP becomes extremely important. I hope that answers the question.
Was that an indicator of being done? Yeah. Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Do you prefer?
thank you all for your thoughtful questions, and a big thank you to Mr. Anton and Mrs. Kalandi for those insightful answers. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. Your presentation was both insightful and inspiring. Your discussion on decentralization has truly given us valuable perspectives to consider. As a token of our deep appreciation, I would now like to invite Dr. Rajeshwari, Plenary Chair, IQBA 2024, to come forward and present a memento to Mr. Anton. I'll call him next. Dr. Sonali Patil is the expert of blockchain domain from PCCOE. Thank you, Dr. Rajeshwari and Sonali Patil ma'am, for that warm gesture. Now I would like to invite on stage Dr. Jayashree Katti and Dr. Swati Shinde to present the memento to Dr. Kalandi, Mrs. Kalandi. Thank you, Dr. Katti and Dr. Swati Shinde, for this warm gesture. As we come to the close of our special session, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers for their time and insights. I would like to thank our audience for their participation and engaging questions. Thank you once again for joining us today. We hope you found the session